So Charles, we're here talking about Metal Energy. It's the ore group's new expression of interest in the nickel space. We've got two assets which we've acquired. One is called the Manibridge. It's a brownfields environment in the Thompson Belt of Manitoba, and the other is a grassroots exploration project called the Strange in the mid-continental rift area. Brand new company. We just raised $6 million very quickly. People are clearly interested in us, clearly interested in nickel. We're going public in October. Tell us about the Manibridge, which is the flagship asset. In my mind, if I can't say, it's almost like QC Copper 2.0. In terms of the asset strategy, there's a lot of parallels. I mean, we're an established district, just like QC Copper is in Chibougamau. The Manibridge is in the Thompson Belt. It's an old Falconbridge mine. We have a database. We've modeled it. It's not 43101 compliant, but we see it. We see a mineralized envelope. We know it needs to be drilled out in order to better understand it. So, I mean, that's how I see it. Tell me how you see it.
Yeah, exactly. The Manibridge has, I would say, has a lot of parallels with what we did in Chapet. There are differences, obviously, but there's a lot of parallels. One is that it's a previous producer. It was a modest producer. It wasn't a very big mine, but it was very high grade, and so there is definitely potential for finding other zones that are of similar grade. There was a lot of drilling that was done on the Manibridge. There was also a lot of three-dimensional modeling of the mineralized zone, and it turns out that the Manibridge, what they mined is a small, high-grade pod within a quite a large envelope of modest-grade mineralization. The envelope extends for 1.5 kilometers. It extends down plunge, probably close to 600-700 meters, and the envelope creates a volume or tonnage of about 55 to 60 million tons, and it's about 30 to 40 meters thick. Okay, when you have a zone, an underground body that is that kind of thickness, you can mine it by what we call transverse long hole. So instead of mining it parallel to the zone, you mine it perpendicular. So you create these slots within the deposit. So you come in, you create a slot, you mine it out, then you backfill with cement. You fill it up with cement, it solidifies. Meanwhile, you're doing other blocks. You have to leave pillars, but you mine other blocks. And then when it solidifies, you can come back, and between two backfill zones, you can come and get the piece in the middle. So you can recover almost 100% of the deposit. And not only that, because it's so wide, your long hole mining is very efficient, and there you lower your operating costs down to a minimum. So you can mine these things for like $45 a ton, which means that your cutoff grade is probably on the order of 0.7, 0.8% nickel. If your grades of nickel are over 1.5% or in that order, that's getting pretty interesting, especially if you got 50 million tons of that stuff. So yeah, so Manibridge is something. We have two targets at Manibridge, and in the immediate area, we have there's an opportunity for finding more of these high-grade pearls, and we also need to look at very carefully what the economics of mining the low-grade material on a bulk mineable scale could do for us, and that's where we're doing that right now this fall. And in addition, the property, it's a magmatic nickel sulphide deposit, and it occurs along a particular horizon. So that horizon, we can follow it regionally on the magnetics, and we can follow it with the geology. So we know where this horizon goes at the regional scale, and we have probably about 20 kilometers of this contact, of this unit, if you want, that we can explore. And there are drill holes, historical drill holes that were drilled in the past on the extensions and on the other parts of the system that intersected what we would consider today to be economic grades of nickel, maybe not over economic widths, but certainly economic grades. And so that's going to be really the focus in the coming year. On the one hand, we want to do some airborne geophysics, and on the other hand, we want to do some fairly deep holes underneath the existing mineralized envelopes under existing drilling in order to see if we can find some more mineralized.
Some more high-grade shoots, and extend sort of the mineralized envelope
And
at
we-
depth. We see, you know, on the sort of the
Yeah.
one of the horizons there, it's been drilled
Yeah.
below all the stopes. It's
Yeah.
been drilled at depth.
Yeah.
But even though the horizon goes over another kilometer and a half, there's not much drilling below the 200
That's
meter
correct.
level.
That's
right?
correct. And we need to carefully evaluate what it means to have all this thick, low grade material. Can we make something out of that? That's not clear right now, but we're going to be studying that in the coming.
It's early days. So I mean, the strategy is really better understand the model, do some geophysics, do some drilling. I think we can. I think the project's permitted. We're sort of targeting a December start drill program, and we just go from there, I suspect.
Correct.
But let's talk about outside of, call it the Brownsfield environment, which is obviously the crux. It's the bulk of our interest right now. But there's a parallel horizon there, which we call the greenfield zone.
Yes, correct. That's
there.
what I was talking about. This is the horizon. It's the same horizon stratigraphically, if you want, but it's located elsewhere in the camp. And that horizon, there's some drilling, but not very much. Some of the drilling has been successful technically. It's intersected the right rocks, the right mineralization. But what we need to do is we need to identify along that trend. We need to identify areas where we have the more better chance of making discovery, and then drilling those targets. So that's going to be the secondary objective of the program.
Got it. Okay. Well, look, I think that covers the Manibridge. Now let's talk about our second asset, which is, in fact, was the first asset, which I guess was the genesis behind creating a nickel company. We call it the Strange Project. It's in Strange Township, just 40 kilometers west of Thunder Bay. It's on the paved highway. It is also permitted. It's grassroots. Okay, so it's almost a binary situation. But in my mind, we're chasing a new district, a real discovery, something that could be substantive or it could be nothing, right?
Yeah, I mean,
so what's the question that needs to be answered
the question here is that the conventional interpretation of the mid-continent rift places all of the significant nickel mineralization in a very narrow time horizon of about 1.1 billion years old. Okay, and the basin itself, or the system itself in the mid-continent rift, it spans from about 1.9 billion years, maybe a bit older, and it spans from there right up to about 1 billion years old. So it's almost 1 billion years in age. It even records, and we have very good evidence, it records the effects of the impact crater from Sudbury, which is at Sudbury, it's 1.812 or something in that. I'm not an expert of this, but just to give you a point, that we know this basin very well. It's well known, and there's some really important nickel mineralization. It's almost in tonnage wise, in terms of the amount of resource, it's almost a world-class environment to look for nickel. What's special about our Strange project is that the mineralization, the target we're looking for is at the base of the sequence. So it's within the oldest rocks of the sequence. These oldest rocks, okay, these are graphitic, sulfidic sediments. Okay, now they're rocks, they're sedimentary rocks, but they're sulfidic and graphitic, and there's suggestion from the regional interpretation of the magnetics that there could be the right type of ultramafic rocks at the base of the sequence that could be a target for what we're trying to find, which is a nickel deposit in sills or flows that are parallel to that unit, because we know from the way we understand these nickel deposits is that they form by contamination of a mantle type, from the mantle of the earth, the magmas that come up through rift zones, and they get contaminated. These are very rich in nickel, but they have no sulfur in them, so they get contaminated when they flow through these sediments, And as soon as the sediments, because these are really hot, they're very, very hot, they're 1400, 1500 degrees, and they get contaminated by assimilate the sediment. The sulfur goes in the magma, and immediately the nickel finds the sulfur and goes right in the sulfur. It makes a dense mineral that tends to sink. It produces these massive sulfides in the horizon. They're like I said, the grades can be quite high. Same thing we see at Thompson. Okay, the environment is different, but it's the same thing. In the mid-continent rift, there's hardly anything deformed. It's almost like in the original position, whereas Thompson, everything's super deformed. But what we're betting on is that at the base of the sequence, it's either going to be a 1.1 billion year old ultramafic sill that's going through the sequence, which is possible, or as our vendor, Alan Abbott, suggested, maybe we could be dealing with a second event, okay, a second older magmatic event, a rifting event, older at the base of the sequence, that would have been created these flows flowing over top these sediments, okay, and there is, I would say, circumstantial evidence to suggest that it's possible, because we see that in an actual volcanic flow that occurs within the sequence just off our property, and it's been mapped as a flow, and it has characteristics of these favorable rocks that we see elsewhere. And because it's mapped as a flow and it's intercalated within rocks of the same age, therefore it should be 1.8. If it's 1.8, if we can go in there and find a 1.8 billion year event that has nickel in it, well, then it changes the whole story of the mid-continent rift.
So a successful drill program, which by the way is only going to be 2 or 3 holes. Easy to do. It's on the highway. So, I mean, the risk reward here was what attracted me. I mean, exactly. we can fail. That's what we always talk about. How much does this cost to fail? We can fail cheap and quick, but what does success look like? Okay.
Success is basically, it doesn't matter to us whether we find an ultramafic sill that's 1.1 or we find an ultramafic flow, a volcanic flow that's 1.8. For us, it's the same thing. As soon as we identify that kind of rock, we don't need a deposit. We only need the right rocks. If we find a rock of that type, okay, of that age, either or, it's a success. The target is multi-kilometric in size. So once we've established that we're in the right kind of rocks, I told you from the beginning, we won't even have to do any more work. We'll be able to find partners. The big companies, that's what they crave for. They crave for these kind of environments that gives us a camp scale or district scale target that they can come in and explore properly.
All right.
And so that's it's fail quickly. That's the key.
Simple
for this.
bet. Well, yeah. and at the same time, as you always say, leave no stone unturned, Charles.
That's right.
So look, Metal Energy, very exciting, brand new company, going to be listed in October under the symbol MERG, metalenergy.com or .ca. Check us out. Charles, thanks so much.
My pleasure.